He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. National Signing Day continues to roll along. It's been a busy day, and we've had you guys covered. Subscribe if you haven't already. Tons of videos you guys can go check out. We're going to break down the top 25 recruiting classes, reveal style, Chase. The Iowa Hawkeyes sitting with 17 commits, Chase. I just hope they have a quarterback who can play.
We were hoping that Spencer Rattler was going to go to Iowa so that we wouldn't have to watch Spencer Petras anymore. Instead, Spencer Rattler goes to South Carolina to rejoin Shane Beamer. 0 5-stars, 2 4s, and 14 3-stars. That's about par for the course for Iowa.
Ole Miss at number 24. They've been hovering in the low mid-20s all day long. 18 commits. Not a great class, but a good one for Lane Kiffin, and keep an eye on the transfer portal. I think that's where Lane can make his money this offseason.
Yeah, 0 5-stars, 4 4s, 14 3-stars. And with Lane Kiffin, look, I think he's good at discovering hidden gems and diamonds in the rough. I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss is vying for an SEC championship berth next year.
South Carolina at number 23. You got to like what Shane Beamer is doing there, trying to rebuild that program. It's been several years since they've been really competitive, really since Steve Spurrier decided to kind of hang it up there. But they did get Spencer Rattler and his buddy Austin Stogner, Chase, who we watched Stogner and Norman catch passes from Caleb Williams, big H-back tight end type, really can work the seam there. A couple of former big recruits, talented players that aren't a part of the recruiting class, but will have impacts right away.
And prior to being the head coach at South Carolina, Shane Beamer, son of Frank Beamer, was on the staff at Oklahoma. So Spencer Rattler is familiar with him. And South Carolina kind of came out of nowhere to land Spencer Rattler. There were a lot of indications he was trying to stay out west because he's an Arizona guy. Instead, he basically goes to the east coast of South Carolina, surprised a lot of people. But I think it is a good fit.
Yeah, Mississippi State right there at number 22. You know, look, I didn't know how Mike Leach would do at at least a decent SEC program. I think he's doing pretty well. 7-5 this year, top 25 class. If you get him a decent quarterback, he can make things happen.
Another guy who can just plug and play players into his system. 23 stars, 2 4-stars. I don't really think you make too much of that. It's really about the coach just finding ways to maximize the abilities of his players.
Mel Tucker certainly has been in the headlines a lot this college football season. Got that big extension. Number 21 class right now with 22 commits.
5 4-stars for Michigan State is pretty damn good. And how about Mel Tucker just resetting the coaching market and getting a bunch of other guys paid in addition to himself, closing in on that deal worth almost $100 million. So 5 4-stars, very good for Sparty, 17 3-stars.
Now, we think we're a 5-star channel on YouTube. That's up for you guys to decide.
Right there.
Subscribe and find out if you haven't been familiar with our coverage of college football. We also have a lot of NFL and NBA coverage as well. The link is below to share with all your buddies. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. All you got to do is hit the red button. It's 100% free. We'll have you guys covered all season long. All right, top 20 here. Indiana has 19 commits. Really got to hit the reset button if you're Tom Allen.
Yeah, and Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback who 2 years ago, prior to tearing his ACL in that really surprising and very nice season for Indiana, hit the transfer portal. So you have to figure out quarterback, but I have no doubts about Tom Allen being able to rehabilitate and rehab things at Indiana.
Like Tom Allen, Sam Pittman's a great culture guy.
Seriously.
He's really brought his culture as being the Georgia offensive line coach to being the head coach at Arkansas. They've got 21 commits.
Yeah, Woo Pig, 21 total, 0 5s, 5 4s, and 14 3s. Sam Pittman, what can you say about the job he's done the last 2 years? Really has been miraculous.
LSU at number 18. I think they're a team to watch out for beyond signing day. Only 13 commits. You figure Brian Kelly's going to find, 4, 5, 6, 7 other players, some 3 and some 4-stars probably sprinkled into the mix there. But we'll see how Brian Kelly kind of works over time. But 18 isn't bad considering, a coaching change down in Baton Rouge.
Some talk about some of the players in-state in Louisiana waiting until January or February to make their decisions because they want to see the coaching staff that Brian Kelly builds. This class right now is headlined by 2 5-stars who have signed their national letters of intent. A 5-star offensive tackle in Will Campbell out of Monroe, Louisiana, 6'6", 300 pounds. Walker Howard out of Lafayette, Louisiana, a quarterback, 6'1", 195, also a 5-star.
Keep leaning on that that family, Brian. Number 17, Florida State, obviously losing the number 1 overall player, Travis Hunter hurts, but still a top 20 class right now for Mike Norvell.
Yeah, how do you rebound from that psychologically when you lose the top-ranked player to Deion Sanders, a player who thrived and flourished at Florida State? That's a big loss.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Clemson at 16. Another team to kind of watch moving forward with Dabo losing both of his coordinators, 13 commits, but some good ones in this class.
1 5-star, very well-rounded class with 8 4-stars, and Cade Klubnik, who is the quarterback who can maybe take over for DJ. We'll see.
Who gets the top class? And we'll get to the top 5 momentarily. Alabama, Texas A&M, and Georgia really jockeying between 1 and 3 all day long. Bama, if you think it's Alabama, type TXAM. If you think it's Texas A&M, if you think it's the Georgia Bulldogs, type UGA. We'll see how it shakes out. Go ahead and get your votes in. Top 15 we go. It's been a rough few years for David Shaw, but top 15 recruiting class here, Chase.
Yeah, and obviously there are academic rigors that you have to factor in at places like Stanford and Notre Dame. Stanford's kind of been floating around mediocrity to being a bad team
below mediocre
the last couple of years, which just isn't the standard at Stanford, and that cannot be accepted. But 7 4-stars for the Cardinal, that's pretty good.
Auburn sitting there at number 14. Brian Harsin in his first year, up and down, starts 1 and 2, wins 5 in a row, loses the final 4 or 5, almost beats Alabama. Really a whirlwind of a season. Now you got Bo Nix in the transfer portal, but 18 commits coming in. Hopefully a top 15 class. Look, the SEC West is just a beast, man.
You can tell that Auburn wants to win right now under Hartson. That's why they fired their wide receivers coach. That's why at one point they had kind of benched Bo Nix. There's pressure on Hartson to win immediately. Getting 9 4-stars, that could help them get back on track. And let's face it, I mean, they went toe-for-toe with Alabama the last week of the year.
Who's a sleeper team in these top 25 recruiting rankings? Maybe a team that can make some moves. Let us know what you guys think on this one. I think Tennessee could be one. Look, Josh Heupel comes in there and loses 30-something transfers after the Jeremy Pruitt disaster. Now he goes 7-5, and now he's got a top 15 class. I think he's doing pretty well.
No, he's doing good, and I don't think anybody expected them to go 7-5 this year, especially with a lot of people transferring. Now, they missed out on Walter Nolan, the number 1 defensive lineman in this class. It's kind of a miss for them because he was from Powell, Tennessee, but he goes to Texas A&M. Still a very good recruiting class for Heupel.
Mark Stoops is doing a hell of a job for a program that did not invest in football before about 5 years ago. I mean, Kentucky did not care. As long as they were winning in basketball, they were chill. Mark Stoops has changed that. He takes that job several years ago, and he says, I'm going to bring interest to this football program. Top 12 class,
hey man,
pretty damn good.
Yeah, if 10 years ago I told you, hey, Kentucky was going to land in 2022, 1 5-star and 8 4-stars, you would have been like, yo, Chase, you're asinine, you're crazy. In basketball, nah, football. That's what Stoops is doing.
Well, how about this, too? They've been better in football than basketball for about 2 years now. Who thought that would ever happen, even for a single year? Missouri, the number 11 ranked class, they had a big signing day. They have the number 3 ranked player in this class and added multiple 4-stars, on National Signing Day. They've got 16 commits. Fringe top 10 class for Eli Drinkwitz. They got to get things rolling there at Mizzou.
Yeah, and a hard commit from Luther Burden out of East St. Louis, who's a 5-star wide receiver at 6 foot, 200 pounds. Good size, good speed. Man, if he ends up going to Mizzou, Eli Drinkwitz, you got it going on.
Yeah, it's a big deal, no doubt about it. We've got some college football hoodies on sale as well. These deals are big deals, so take advantage. 50% off for a lot of these different ones. The link is below on your screen, chatsports.com/CFB hoodie. We'll also have it in the description and the comments of these videos. Different style jackets and hoodies to stay warm during the winter, especially for you cold weather folks across the country. Stay warm with one of these jackets or hoodies, and then just browse different ones. Tons of different styles, hoodies, zip-up jackets, zip-up hoodies, ones with the hand pockets as well. Chatsports.com/CFB hoodie. We rock into the top 10 now as we go through our top 25 recruiting classes, and things are constantly changing, so if the rankings are slightly altered, keep that in mind. Oklahoma at number 10. I want to bring producer Sam Brown in here, an OU alum. Obviously, a tumultuous 3 weeks or so after losing Lincoln Riley, but a bit of a rebound by Brent Venables in this coaching staff.
Definitely a rebound in the last week or so, right? In terms of Jeff Lebby getting hired, getting in, hitting the road. They find a 2022 quarterback out of Flower Mound, Texas, and Nick Evers that initially they weren't planning on adding a quarterback in this recruiting class. Brought a guy with him, Jaden Gibson, a tall wide receiver. Tall wide receivers are starting to become the theme with Brent Venables. Nicholas Anderson, the brother of Rodney Anderson, if you remember, Harrison, was originally committed to Oklahoma, decommitted, recommitted. He's another tall guy. Venables went and saw him in his house. I think you're starting to see what Venables wants in his players, not just on offense, but on the defensive side of the ball. He wants some dogs on defense, and I think he just hasn't found a bunch of those guys yet. He said earlier today he wasn't going to commit or to recruit decommitted Clemson players, and so for that reason, I think he might see a little more time. Need Devin Campbell, but overall feeling a lot better.
I do want to say this too, Chase. Shout out Bob Stoops. I mean, for him to just come in.
The ship was sinking, and he kept it afloat.
He kept it afloat. Yeah. He loves that program. He can sell the program. They offered him like $250,000 to help just transition things. He said no. Yeah. He said, I'm going to work for free because
Bob Stoops
of
is my hero.
What this program means to me. And he helped stabilize things. Sure, they lost a couple of recruits, but he hit the recruiting trail the night that Lincoln Riley told them he was leaving.
That's
the same
impressive.
day. I mean, that's commitment for a guy who, sure, he's got a little bit of a salary coming from Norman, but they offered him a bunch more money, and he was like, nah, man, you guys hooked me up for 20 years. I'm happy to do it. So shout out Coach Stoops. Number 9, Michigan, 24 commits. They added some players in the last week or so, Chase, including a couple today to secure what looks like a top 10 class.
Ended up having a pretty good day today. They got a commit from 5-star Will Johnson, a cornerback, 6'3", 190. He was already committed, but I'm just saying in general, a couple of really big commits today. Derek Moore, Keon Sabb, Tyler Morris, Darius Clemens, all 4-star guys who factor in as really nice players for Jim Harbaugh.
North Carolina, 2 5-stars for Mack Brown, 2 of the top 11 players. We'll see what they do at quarterback, assuming has Sam Howell declared? Has he announced he's gone? I think he's going to go pro. But it's expected that he will go pro. It's not official, but high expectation that he will leave the program.
2 5-stars at UNC, man.
Yeah, I mean, like Kentucky, you're talking about a basketball program, and Mack Brown goes in there in his late 60s, now 70 years old, and is I feel like coaching again, and he's doing a great job as a recruiter.
Yeah, no question.
And then Notre Dame, hey, man, Marcus Freeman, shout out to him and his offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. Chase, we all saw the clips go viral about those two guys when they announced that they were staying. The players were thrilled about that after the departure of Brian Kelly, and a top 10 class coming along with it.
Yeah, obviously, like Stanford, some academic kind of limitations that you have with building that program, which makes it challenging. But for Notre Dame to be as good as they've been under Brian Kelly, now with Marcus Freeman continuing that momentum. They keep Tommy Rees in-house as well. I like the future of this program. They get that commit from 1 5-star in 6'2", 210 linebacker Jalen Snead out of Hilton Head, South Carolina. Figures to be a very good player. And you always know Notre Dame is going to be great along the offensive line because they always attract very good players on that end. And with Marcus Freeman being a defensive guy, that defense is going to continue to ball out too.
And then Penn State coming in there at number 6, kind of sat there all day, really, 24 commits. At one point, earlier on in the fall, they had the number 1 ranked class, but still a top 5 fringe type of class for James Franklin.
All throughout our live show, when we've talked about Penn State, we're like, yo, James Franklin, good recruiter, does a great job developing pro players. They just don't have a quarterback. They get one, 5-star Drew Aller. Could he be the next guy to put them over the top because they've been on the brink?
Yeah, maybe Sean Clifford starts one more year, then the 5-star takes over. We'll see what shakes out there. National champs, who's it going to be? Bama, Cincy, Michigan, Georgia. Get your votes in. Type Bama for Alabama. Type CIM for Cincinnati. Type MICH for the Michigan Wolverines. Type UGA for Georgia. We get into the top 5. One of the biggest movers of the day, Texas, up to 27 commits. Which makes sense because some of the older players in the program are leaving. They're going into the transfer portal, the Joshua Moores of the world, probably at least one of those quarterbacks as well. Sark had a good day, man. Kudos to Texas. We'll see if this translates to wins in the coming years, but a good start.
Quinn Ewers is flashy. Running backs are flashy. So too are wide receivers. What isn't offensive linemen? But outside of quarterback, the most important, they've honed in on that position group during this recruiting class, which is important.
And it had to be rebuilt, no doubt about it. Kelvin Banks highlighting that. Number 4, Ohio State. Quiet day. Had 19 commits. Texas actually flipped one of those, and I believe Terrence Brooks earlier in the day. Buckeyes kind of hanging out at number 4. A little bit of a lighter class, but a high-impact one.
Yeah, and look, they've developed a lot of good defensive linemen over time. I think one of their big focuses has been improving the second and third levels during this recruiting class. A lot of guys at linebacker, safety, and cornerback.
Number 3, the Georgia Bulldogs, and I really want to emphasize this with the top 3 teams coming up here. We'll get to the other 2 in a moment. Very much a fluid situation.
Going to change.
And could change. So keep an eye on that. But Kirby Smart, another great class, 27 players, loads of talent on both sides of the football, including a highly touted quarterback. And as we all know, that's really the missing piece for Georgia. They just got to figure out that position.
Got to get the quarterback right. I mean, if you put Bryce Young on Georgia, I think they'd be the overwhelming favorites to win the national championship. But the jury is out. Can Stetson Bennett, JT Daniels win you a national championship game? I don't think so. We'll find out, though.
Number 2, Alabama, who kind of showed the world that, yeah, that might be a challenge for Stetson Bennett. Again, they've been in the mix for the top class. They've gone back and forth with the program we'll get to in a moment. But Saban, his staff, they do what they do. It doesn't matter who's on staff. It's pretty easy to sell Alabama. Hey, come here. You'll get to the NFL. At least 50% of you guys will, and you're probably going to play for a national championship too.
It's just so impressive what he's been able to do. I mean, a revolving door with the coaching staff. He just finds ways to plug and play coaches, so to speak, with players, obviously. A bunch of guys going pro every single year. He finds replacements for those guys, and he continues to win, rebuild along the way, and compete for national championships. It's Bill Belichickian-like.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Texas A&M sitting there with the top class, and, you know, be surprised if you want to, but when you paid Jimbo Fisher $75 million to come over from Florida State, and then when you extended him before this season up to $9 million a year, this is what you paid the man for, to bring in top 5 recruiting classes consistently. They've got a real shot to finish the deal here and get that number 1 ranked recruiting class, led by Walter Nolan, the number 2 overall player who signed his letter of intent today.
Great defensive lineman. Right now, 4 5-stars and 18 4-stars, which is only one behind the nation lead in Alabama. Big focus for Texas A&M, beefing up that defensive line and offensive line. Need to get that right to continue to compete at the high end of the SEC.
So there you have it. Top 5 classes as we broke down the entire top 25. Texas at 5, Ohio State at 4. You got the Georgia Bulldogs at 3, Alabama at 2, A&M at 1. And one more time, I want to mention it. Top 3, it's fluid. Yeah. And, of course,
don't rip us in the comments section when things change.
A&M's too, guys. It's changing. It's possibly already changed by the time you guys see this.